again, guys. Hello again. A tip for using two courses. I know I already talked about that, using two courses, but that's it. If you're using two courses, don't study everything in those two courses. Don't forget about that. Don't you ever forget about that, my friend, because if you do, you'll be wasting your time. And you don't want to waste your precious little time, of course. I will need to use two courses, and I will need to study almost everything in those two courses in some languages that are pretty difficult, and that I would like to reach a higher standard. And if I would revise grammar, then okay, I won't be losing my time. I would be revising stuff, and that's okay. If that's the problem, that's okay. But if you're studying, for instance, let's see, um, just like I study French, I'm using Assimil. Assimil, that's what I'm using. Then I will use the other Assimil. I have teach yourself. I'm only going to use teach yourself for the dialogues. Some more words. That's it. Because when you use two courses, one course, that should be your Bible, definitely. You use teach yourself. Teach yourself is your Bible. You should work your way through the old dialogues, half of the grammar examples, grammatical grammar rules, and all that kind of stuff. You should work your way through the whole book over and over and over again. Too much is never enough, and you forget about that. You should revise that book over and over and over again, because teach yourself is it's the greatest for grammar, and it's pretty damn good. The only thing you don't have to memorize and teach yourself are all the grammar examples. They gave their examples for you to understand, but you should memorize half of them, or at least 40% of them. Why? Because they are very important phrases and very useful phrases. You can find them on Phrasebooks, of course, but they are very useful. If you memorize them, some of them, 40% of them, so you will recognize them when you see them on Phrasebooks. So that's it. Use one course as your Bible. Work your way through it. Work your way through it all time. And then the other course, don't use it, let's see, don't use it more than 50%. Don't use it more than 50%. If you're using, for instance, if you're using teach yourself and colloquial. So use teach yourself for grammar, use teach yourself for everything, for grammar, dialogues, examples, if you want to make some drills and exercise and stuff like that. But when it comes to using, for instance, colloquial, make sure you listen to the dialogues, you move your way through the dialogues, you'll find some new words, some new expressions that will be useful, and then skip the grammar, because you have already studied grammar with teach yourself. If you don't, you will study with teach yourself, because it's better. So when it comes to grammar, you skip that part. Pay attention to the examples. They gave you some examples. There might be some useful phrases there that you don't have in teach yourself. Though you could form them, it will be good if you take a look at those phrases. And I would say if those phrases are pretty damn good, you should do the same as you do with teach yourself. So use half of them. But when it comes to grammar, don't study any grammar at all. Basically the dialogues, I mean in the other course, of course, teach yourself, study everything. Colloquial, dialogues, and the grammar examples. Unless, of course, you need to revise stuff or you want to reach a higher standard and you do not have another way of doing that. That's a different story. That's a different kind of story, of course. For instance, now talking about that, it's a little bit the opposite, not the opposite that I'm saying, but I'm using for Dutch, slowly, very slowly, I'm using now Assimil, but teach yourself will be my Bible. Teach yourself will be my Bible, of course. Teach yourself Dutch will be my Bible, but I decided to start with Assimil. I'm saying the opposite that I said, because I'm using more than 50% of the course. I'm using more than 50% of Assimil. I just advise you guys to use only 50% of the second course, and now I'm telling you guys that I'm using more than 50%, maybe 75%. But why? Because I want to reach a higher standard. I want to reach an upper intermediate level. And since I'm a very beginner, I don't have so much knowledge about Dutch. I guess it's best to do that. So, if you guys use Assimil and teach yourself, I would advise you guys to keep struggling with teach yourself as your Bible. And when it comes to Assimil, pay attention to the dialogues, listen to the dialogues over and over again. That's what I'm doing. Take a look at the notes. Take a look. Don't memorize the examples they give you there, the notes. Take a look at the notes and don't do the second exercise. Do just the first one, which is you read from some sentences, some phrases, and then they give you a translation into Dutch. That's what I'm doing. Because I believe that Assimil, if you use two courses, using Assimil, it's better if you use 75% of Assimil. Because if you use only 50% of the Assimil, what would you use? Only Elf dialogue. It's because Assimil, it's not colloquial. Colloquial, you use the dialogue, use the example, that's 50% of the course, that's it. But with Assimil, you have to use the entire dialogue. The entire dialogue is more than 50% of the course. So my advice for you guys is, use Teach Yourself as the Bible. Then, Assimil dialogues, take a look at the notes, and those exercises which translate this into read a few times those words, those sentences. The second exercise is to fill in space. Don't do that, and let's go to the next chapter. So see you guys then.